movie should be fun. Movie should be fun. Movie should be fun. Movie should be fun, yeah!
Hello, Grubby Phil here. How are you action fans out there? Okay, today I'm going to be talking about a movie that I think I've seen once before a long time ago, and I've always kind of avoided because it gets a bit of a bad rep, but I thought, I'm going to go for it, open mind, see what it's like. I watched Last Action Hero starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, I don't want to jump to the end here, but maybe it deserves some of its bad rep. Basic plot, you've got a kid, he gets a magic ticket, he loves these films that star Arnold Schwarzenegger, called Jack Slater films. He gets into the movie, he teams up with his hero, some overly convoluted plot involving a crime stuff goes down, and then literally an hour into the movie, they jump into our world, where it gets a tiny bit better, but it's too little too late. And they defeat some bad guys, and it all finishes, basically. Let's start with the character of Jack Slater. So he is a sort of Dirty Harry type. The visuals are very Dirty Harry. He has the big gun, he's a maverick cop. And you start by the kid watching one of his films, and you think, okay, it's Dirty Harry on steroids. It's a little more, it's a little sillier. So we have this problem with the first half of the movie in Jack Slater movie land. And that's a problem with the Jack Slater movie in universe and the wider movie that we're watching. And that is a problem of tone. So basically it's a PG film. It's about a little kid who gets to go in a film with his favorite action hero. And you think, okay, this would appeal to 12-year-olds. But then there's far too much swearing for 12-year-olds. So it's not going to get a rating that they can go and see. So you're like, well, who are you aiming this at? It's not me. It was maybe me as a kid, but me as a kid probably wouldn't be allowed to watch it. Like I said, Jack Slater is like a souped up Dirty Harry. And that's kind of what his films seem like. And they seem okay. But then once the kid's in there, the boss literally steams at the ears. And you're like, okay, that's a little cartoon. And then there's an animated cat police person. Now, he's not a big character. And I have to admit, as far as the gags in the movie go, the gag on its own, viewed in isolation, the cat gag actually works quite well. But as part of the tone of these Jack Slater films and what they're supposed to be and what we're told they're supposed to be, doesn't work at all. Partway into the kid being there, we find out that the Jack Slater character, who is a character, not a real person, he's not actually the great guy, he kind of is portrayed to be this character. He's actually quite tragic. His ex-wife isn't desperate to get him back. He's playing these tapes to her, nagging him on the phone, but it turns out it's not really him. He's actually quite lonely. And it's like, no, if we're meant to be buying into a universe in a film, you can do that. But this is a kid who goes into a cheesy action movie franchise where we find out that the character actually isn't this larger-than-life guy, not quite so much. He's actually quite tortured and flawed. But that's never presented in the Jack Slater movies, and he's not a real person. So it just doesn't work. The tone isn't there. And by doing all this, they're trying to bring the character to earth, I guess. But at this point, we've had the kid doing an E.T. flying bike gag. We've had an exploding fake eyeball from an utterly stereotypical British villain. And you're just like, no, it's too late. You can't pull it back now. You've jumped the shark already. This film, the kid doing the E.T. bike was probably the moment when I sat there and thought, jump into the shark! If the animated cat hadn't done that already for you. Let's move on to the bad guy, which is Tywin Lannister. Let's hope the Game of Thrones casting people didn't see this. Well, they probably didn't. Otherwise, I don't think we would have had the great Tywin Lannister that we had. So the guy's a good actor, but this character is paper thin and just absolutely stereotype awful. He's terrible. The kid is annoying. He's not the most annoying kid in the film, but he's pretty whiny. It takes him a long time to sort of realize everything, and he sort of talks us through it as if we're idiots when we have that long before you dumb. It's Tywin Lannister, British bad guy extraordinaire, who follows us back into the real world, where the film gets a little better. You have some gags that kind of work. Jack Slater shoots a car, and it doesn't blow up. It just makes a couple of bullet holes in the trunk, and you're like, yes, that's quite funny. He then goes to punch and break a car window immediately after. But it does break, it just hurts him a little. And I think that whole thing would have played much better if he'd shot the car, hadn't blown up, he'd try to punch through a window, and nothing had happened. He just smacked his hand on the window. I think that would have been a little better. But the gag still kind of worked. But you don't care by this point. There's been a whole hour of the film in the Jack Slater movie with this crime boss thing and this plot that you never care about anyway, because it's a movie within a movie. Inception. They beat you to it, Inception. It's a movie within a movie, so you therefore don't care about it. You know the kid's gonna get out. you don't buy into the world because you're already being asked to buy into One World Back, which is a movie in which there's a kid watching a cinema and then going into it. So you just don't give a fuck! As we get to the climax, it all takes place during the new Jack Slater premiere, and we get some scenes with actual Arnold Schwarzenegger and a little cameo from Jean-Claude Van Damme, and a scene with Jack Slater meeting Arnold Schwarzenegger, and all this stuff kind of works. Again, it's too little too late, but you're like, okay, there was a bit of an idea here. You can maybe see where the original idea could have been a little bit better if it had all been done slightly more like this. Tywin Lannister character has brought back a bad guy from a previous Jack Slater film because he's got the magic ticket. Yeah, just whatever. And this bad guy from the previous film, you know, they have a little showdown on the rooftop, and then they have a showdown with Tywin Lannister, and then for no good reason, Death, which I think is played by Ian McKellen, has come out the cinema, and you're like, oh, more really? But no, he comes and says they're not on his list, so I don't worry about it. And you're like, oh, okay, so that was 5 minutes we didn't need. So at the end, Jack Slater goes back into his movie world, he tells the kid to believe in him, and he goes and starts shouting at his boss. And, you know, telling him about the script and everything. And you're like, is this the film that everyone else is watching because it's already premiered, so surely it can't be changed because it's been filmed? Is this just for the kid's benefit who's watching this scene? Your movie has to make some sense in its own terms, just some, and it makes none. I mean, he even breaks the fourth wall to kind of look through the screen at the kid and, like, give him a wink. Does everyone see this? Is everyone like, what the hell's going on? Why is Jack Slater winking at us? You know, Was this movie fun? I mean, obviously not. Do we go with no or hell no? Was it worse than Masters of the Universe, which I only gave a no? I don't know if it was worse. It wasn't better. I mean, it was better made, but hell no! Hell no, this movie's not fun. I'll tell you why I'm being so hard on it. Because this was directed by John McTiernan, who made Predator, and it starred Arnold Schwarzenegger from Predator. The team that brought you Predator, which, not to ruin a one-day future review of Predator, brought you this. A kid with a magic movie ticket. So I'm really sorry, but no, this movie was not fun. Unfortunately, I think this movie kind of signals the beginning of the, I don't want to say downfall. I love Schwarzenegger. He's fucking Schwarzenegger. A bit of the downhill slump that his career started to take. He started doing a lot more family movies, a lot more comedies, some of which really worked. Some of which didn't work so much. And power to him. He was trying different stuff and he was building his name and his brand. And, you know, he's a way more successful man than me. And on paper, you know, back with the director of Predator, this film probably, you know, you could see how it could have worked. The crux of the idea, you know, the kid going into the movie or the movie star coming out, the movie character, it kind of works. Maybe they should have stuck with one. Kid goes into the movie in the first film, Jack Slater comes back in a possible sequel. But basically you have two films ran together, which makes the first half meaningless. And Arnold does have good films after this, don't get me wrong. There are some great Arnold films. I think some of the stuff he's making now is good. He's actually quite good in this. This doesn't rest on Arnold's shoulders. You know, his Jack Slater, Clint Eastwood times 10, is an amusing and interesting enough character. He plays the bits where he's playing Arnold Schwarzenegger quite well. Jack Slater realizing he's a character. Alright, it's not quite harrowing enough if it's meant to be realistic, but as it's not a realistic film, it's handled, you know, he handles it well enough. The problem is the script and the tone, and that has to be the direction, unfortunately. And just, oh, no. I mean, he doesn't even have a catchphrase. Not one that I can remember anyway. At least, you know, not an original one that hasn't been rehashed from one of his other films. So that was it. Last Action Hero starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, cut 45 minutes off of it, you might have a reasonable film, or, you know, just no. Just no. I'm really sorry, but no. This has been Grubby Phil. Thank you for watching. Woo!
Movie,